For property owners across Florida, the threat of squatters has become a nightmare. That's all too real for a lot of us. What was once considered a rare occurrence has now turned into a widespread issue, affecting everyone from investors to retirees to vacationers. In today's video, we'll dive into how bad this problem has gotten, the tactics squatters are using, and how a new law in Florida is finally putting an end to their schemes. Thank you. Welcome back to Trevor and Jessica Do Everything Real Estate, and more importantly, a subcategory of videos called Estate of Crime. Our channel covers everything real estate, from home tours to local hotspots to the most shocking true crime cases you've ever heard. And I'm Trevor Snyder, a local real estate broker in the greater Orlando area. And today we're looking at residential squatting. I'm not going to say much more, y'all. Let's get into it. Squatting. Let's define that. It's the act of unlawfully occupying someone else's property. But it's not just a problem for big-time investors. Even everyday homeowners can fall victim to this scam. The worst part? The legal system. Y'all remember 2020 and the rent moratorium? You couldn't evict and you couldn't collect rent, but you had to keep making payments. And until recently, legal routes offered little help to those affected, often leaving property owners in a prolonged and costly battle just to reclaim what's rightfully theirs. This first story is one that we probably can all relate to. This Florida landlord found herself in a battle to reclaim her own home. And not her home, it was a rental. But what started as an investment property turned into a financial and emotional nightmare. Let's take a look.
Owning an extra home was just my way of getting a little bit of extra income for my retirement.
Patty Peoples never imagined that buying 2 small investment properties near her home would turn into such a colossal nightmare.
Oh my gosh. I mean, what a year this had been. Literally 1 year ago this time, the house was in shambles. I can see that they've changed the lock on the front door. How is that not breaking and entering?
The 61-year-old from Jacksonville, Florida, became a victim of squatters, a maddening situation that cost her more than $40,000 and put her in danger.
I thought, if I put the key in the door, then I don't know what's waiting on the other side.
It was last year when Peoples put one of her houses on the market. It sat empty for less than a month before 2 strangers broke in, according to Jacksonville police, and staked their claim, taking over.
I called 911, and as I'm describing to the officer that there may be somebody that had broken and entered into my house, out walks a young woman, and she said, well, I rented this property yesterday. It only got worse. I own this house.
It doesn't matter.
Tensions escalating in this heated altercation the very next day, after Peoples entered her home and asked the strangers to leave.
And she's still standing here. Excuse me.
If you touch me again, I have every right to be in this house.
You don't have every right to be in the house at all.
I do, ma'am.
You do not.
You
do not. I'm not touching you.
You are touching me, and this lady is touching me.
We're blocking you from coming in the house.
You are.
God.
Believe it or not, the police officer told me, I will arrest you if you do this again. They have the right to privacy. I cannot tell you the frustration I felt at this point.
According to this police report obtained by ABC News, the squatters had a fabricated lease and were repeat offenders. To people's surprise, police told her there was little they could do.
The police gave me the really devastating news was that this was not a crime, that this had to be managed in civil court.
Well, as you saw, the squatters not only took over the property for more than 30 days, but they also cost over $38,000 in damages. From legal fees to repairs, the financial toll was immense. But what's truly infuriating is how they were able to exploit the system to take advantage, leaving the rightful owners powerless. And I don't mean to laugh or smirk, but wow, how does this happen? So how do squatters manage to pull off these schemes? Unfortunately, many squatters know the law better than property owners themselves. They exploit legal loopholes, fake leases, and even stage elaborate scams to make it difficult for law enforcement to act. Once they're inside, they often refuse to leave, knowing full well that the process to evict them can take weeks, if not months or years in some places. In another case, this one takes place in Ocala, just northwest of Orlando. A gentleman left town for just a short time, as we'll see. When he got back to town, well, this is what happened.
This no trespassing sign didn't do the homeowner any good. He says he was out of town and noticed his electric bill going up. That made him suspicious. But it wasn't until he arrived back at home that he realized what had happened. The day the homeowner got back in town, he says he saw his door ajar, the house disheveled, but no one there. He called police to report some stolen items, including an electric scooter, guns, tools, and documents like a social security card and the deed to his house. He decided to sleep in the closet just in case someone showed up.
Opening my eyes, and here's this guy at the bedroom door. The door's open about this wide, looking straight down at me. So I freaked. I jumped up with my pistol and said, "Get the out of my house."
The police report recounts the two arguing over who owns the house. The homeowner fired a shot into the floor.
Now he starts saying, "You can't do that. You're going to jail. I'm going to call the police." I said, "Good, call the police." And he did.
He's the one who called police?
Yeah.
When police asked the homeowner if he wanted to press charges, he said at first he just asked if Brown could be trespassed.
I said, I don't want the guy to go to jail. He reminds me of my son in a way. Tall, skinny, too smart for his own good, and dumb as a bag of rocks at the same time.
Brown wound up being charged with trespassing, plus possession of methamphetamine and marijuana.
This guy showed a lot of grace. Part of me thinks that people need harsh consequences to learn from, but perhaps that younger scholar took to heart what the guy did for him. I guess let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Needless to say, the entitlement is real, folks. Squatters who know exactly how to manipulate the situation to their benefit, leaving the real homeowners stuck in what I describe as a bureaucratic nightmare. And the damage they leave behind, it's not just physical. It's emotional and financial, sometimes to the point where owners are forced to sell the property at a loss just to move on or figure out how to repair, often a cost that's above and beyond what they would have expected. Squatting isn't just a problem for year-round residents. Florida snowbirds, those seasonal residents who leave their home vacant for months, are also prime targets. These properties are often located in desirable areas and are left vulnerable when their owners head back north for the summer. Or like the last case, the guy was only gone for a little over a month. So it could be a vacation for a long time or a short time. They will prey on you. And it's not just lower income housing that is affected. They'll go wherever they can, if they can.
A father and son were arrested. They are accused of, get this, squatting in a $40 million mansion in Naples. 52-year-old David Benson and his 25-year-old son Adam have been charged with trespassing. Police say the owners of the home were gone for about 6 weeks. When the woman walked into her home, she saw both men doing their laundry. The owners say that they did not give the two permission to be in their home.
We're talking about a $40 million home. You need to get out. Get out, get out, get out, get out.
I'll tell you this much. If I had a $40 million home, I would have security.
Just wow.
Imagine returning to your home or vacation home only to find strangers living there with your property rights essentially stripped away. These stories highlight just how severe the squatting problem has become. It's not just an isolated issue here in Orlando. It's affecting people all across the state, from Jacksonville to Miami, and even in vacation homes, and of course, outside Florida as well. But we hyper-focus on Florida here, and thankfully, there's hope on the horizon. Okay, the good news. Florida has taken action. On June 1st, Governor Ron DeSantis signed HB 621 into law, a bill designed to crack down on squatting and protect property owners. This law marks a significant shift in how squatting cases are handled at the state level, making it easier and faster for the homeowners to reclaim their property.
Well, guys, I can tell you this was not a very controversial policy. In fact, it was unanimously approved by the legislature earlier this year during the legislative session. And now, with Governor Ron DeSantis' signature, Florida becomes one of the first states in the nation to lean in on this issue. With rental homes, second homes, and so many others, Florida is no stranger to squatters. In fact, just this week, Martin County Sheriff made national headlines warning of a viral video teaching squatters how to squat and circumvent the laws.
Crime is a lot like cancer. It spreads, and if you see it somewhere else, let's be on guard. Let's get ahead of it.
When someone is illegally occupying a vacant property, current rules require what can be a lengthy civil court battle to remove them.
All right, so here we go.
Wednesday, Florida's governor signed a new law to streamline that removal process,
providing very swift remedies, because what the squatters know is even when they're in the wrong, it's a massive process many times before they can be evicted, and a lot of times the process is very expensive.
Property owners will now be able to request law enforcement immediately remove a squatter if they entered illegally. They've been told to leave and haven't, and as long as they're not involved in a tenant-landlord legal dispute. The new law also increases penalties: a second-degree felony if squatters cause more than $1,000 in damage, and a first-degree felony for knowingly advertising a fake home sale or rental.
My name is Justin Melcarrick, and I'm just one of the neighbors that had to deal with squatters invading our street.
The change is a big win for Floridians like Justin, who warned Wednesday just how bad things can get.
The squatters brought reckless driving, drugs, weapons, and verbal threats to the lives of my neighbors.
The new law also getting rave reviews from Florida's largest professional trade association, Florida Realtors. Vice President Andy Gonzalez said the Sunshine State now has a deterrent to halt the horror stories.
If you own a property, even if you're away for a period of time, you shouldn't have to go through legal loopholes if there's someone squatting in your house.
The next step is for the changes to take effect. Florida's anti-squatting law now coming online in July of this year.
It's a miracle bill. There can't be any problems with this. So what does the new law do? Well, first, it empowers property owners by allowing them to request immediate removal of squatters by law enforcement without the need for lengthy court processes. As long as the squatter isn't a current or former tenant in a legal dispute, law enforcement can step in right away. And we'll come back to this part in a minute because they can step in right away.
Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd. Sheriff, do you now have the power to arrest and evict squatters quickly?
Well, you know, we always had the power to arrest and evict squatters quickly. There is a civil process that was in place in Florida and across the United States, and some jurisdictions just wouldn't use that. We always did here, and we never had any problem with the squatters, because when they would go into someone's house and change the locks and turn on the electricity and says it's my house, we would verify that it was not a contractual issue, and we would arrest them. We always have arrested them. What our great legislature and our great governor did here was to take away any idea that you had to go through a civil process and it take months and months and months or maybe years to work through and you get your property back.
That's the whole point, isn't it? Months and months and months and maybe years. The White House was pressed on squatters' rights. Watch this, please, Sheriff. Roll it.
How worried do Americans need to be about squatters? Homeowners are showing up at places that they own, where the locks have been changed, some squatter has moved in, and the homeowner has no rights. Does President Biden think that is right?
So if my understanding is that this is obviously a local issue. We are certainly tracking that issue. The rights of property owners and renters must be protected, and we believe that ultimately what needs to happen is the local government needs to make sure that they address this and they take action.
KJP is saying that it's a local issue. I believe you're saying it's a local issue. Would you want the feds to get involved at all?
No, absolutely not. The feds need to take care of the federal issues. They're not doing too good with what they need to be dealing with. So you stay in Washington and you deal with international issues that are really important to us as a nation, and let us take care of the local stuff. That's interesting to me. It is inconceivable to me that any community would allow a squatter to take over someone's homes and tell them they had to go through a civil process. Well, when they go onto your property without permission, that's trespassing, burglary, theft, and all you have to do is man up or woman up as a police administrator and say, go arrest them and put them in jail once you validate the fact that there's no contractual lease agreements or legal agreement to sell. We've done that all along, Stuart.
It's kind of obvious, isn't it?
As a result, our crime's at a 50-year low.
Whether you're an investor, a full-time resident, or a snowbird, this new law ensures that your property rights are respected and that you have the tools you need to fight against any sort of squatting situation. Okay, but let's be objective. Can it present any issues for anyone? I do see potential issues if you're a tenant. What if the owner lies and tries to illegally evict a tenant? The police arrive and the tenant has to show the lease. Hopefully you have it available. And what if you can't prove it right away, or the landlord says it's false? And I'm sure most police would use discretion based on circumstance. They just take a look at it. Nevertheless, if you have been concerned about squatters, or if you want to know more about how this new law could affect you, feel free to reach out. We're here to help you navigate the Florida real estate market with confidence and peace of mind. Jessica and I help people buy and sell real estate. And I have my mortgage license as well. It's how we provide a living for our family of 6. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay informed, stay protected, and we'll catch you in the next video.